And I was like, my first reaction was like, oh, maybe this means that in 3 months that blah, blah, blah is probably going to leave you.
You're alone again. I shouldn't be thinking of you, thinking of me. I know you're not.
Greetings, everybody. This is Mike, and this is the dailyBred podcast, coming to you recordedly live. Well, that really makes sense. On this Saturday, the 30th of January, so we're 30 days into 2021, and doing this on a Saturday night, and I'm going to crack a Truly because it's like the only thing I had in my fridge, and I just got back from a restaurant. I was hanging out for a couple hours. I'm just going to turn that brightness down on my screen. And it's a Saturday night, so I went out to get dinner and just a couple drinks. Obviously, if you listen to the last episode, I cracked the dry January code. I don't know. I ended it because I was just kind of like, I'm good. So I went out and I sat at a bar, and I last weekend, I think I talked about this, where I kind of found out about Instagram Reels, and I did this one where I had my character just like animated where he was singing to a Say Anything song, and it had like 5,000 views. So I brought a bunch of index cards out to this restaurant, and I was sitting there at the bar, and I did an animation of him like skating. And so I just got home, and I was thinking about I should probably just do a episode where I've had a few drinks, and I think I want to talk about things, and a bunch of things popped to my mind. One, which I think I'm going to name this, is Do What You Want. It's the song by Bad Religion that I just started listening to nonstop in the last couple days, which I'm going to talk about. The second is the Reels, and the Reels, which are on Instagram. The things that I typically draw, if you follow my account, if you follow my stories, if I go out and I'm just like hanging out, I'll do like 4 circles, and I'll draw the character, like my comic, doing a couple things. Like the first one I ever did was him falling, and he lands in a split, and it just says #Van Damme, which I thought was pretty hilarious. Then like I've had one where he's just like holding on to a balloon, then he's in space and just kind of confused. I've done another one where, what the hell was it? It's like breakdancing. And I realized that all these things that he does are things that I've always wanted to do in my life. Well, not a split like Van Damme, but breakdancing was a thing that I wanted to do when I was a kid. And that wasn't my thing. Like I was never good at it, but I loved the movies in the 80s, like Breakin' and Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo. So I was like really big into that, and then I was like really big into karate. Actually, that kind of ties into maybe the Van Damme thing. I was like a really huge Chuck Norris fan or karate fan when I was a kid, like the Mission Impossible movies. And there was like all these ninja movies. Like ninjas were the fucking shit in the 80s. And like American Ninja, and there's this one movie I saw where it was like this woman, she like got possessed by this ninja that died by these cops. I forget the name of this movie. It was so ludicrous now that I think about it, but I loved this shit. And this is like the movies that were surrounding us kids in the 80s. Like for me personally, I gravitated towards these movies like Ghostbusters or ninja movies, like this one I'm trying to think of where she gets possessed by this ninja who gets shot by these cops, and then she like takes revenge on these cops as this female, and utilizes the fact that she's a female to manipulate the deaths of these cops. I forget the name of it, but it was, in my mind, it's so great, but it's probably a giant piece of shit if I watch it now, kind of like Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck was amazing when I was a kid, but I've heard it doesn't really hold water, I guess they say nowadays. But like themes that I usually draw in my comic, especially now that I'm doing these 4 circles and they're just kind of like top to bottom situations. And if I think about it, they tie into things that like I always wanted to do, but I never did. Like the ninja thing or skateboarding. Skateboarding is always a theme. Like I love skateboarding or skateboarders. I think they're the coolest fucking people because they just do like this crazy shit and they like just grind these crazy rails or they jump these stupid gaps or they could just do these tricks on their boards, which I just never personally tried, and I don't think if I did try now I'd be good at it, or even if I did try when I was younger I'd be good at it. But I'm so like envious of how good these people are, guys and girls, guys and women, men and women, whatever the fuck. And so it's like I kind of take these things and I can kind of do them in my life through this character that I've created. And it's kind of freeing because it's like the one reel I just did is he's skateboarding and he just does this flip. But it's the things that I realized is that, or are that, the things I realized are that there's things that I can't do, but the people who do the things that I can't personally do, they can't do the things that I can do. I feel like this episode's gonna like jump over the place, but like the other day I was in CrossFit and I'm usually the slowest person. I usually end up finishing last, and I don't really have it built in me to be the fastest person, or I wouldn't say like pain or competition like the people around me. And I go to CrossFit Invoke, and typically these people are fucking beasts, and they're like just super competitive and really fast, and which is great. I'm a person who focuses on form. Not saying that they don't, but hold on, I need to take a sip of this Truly. There we go, lemon Truly. But like, they are just go 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 and want to finish in the fastest time to beat everybody. That's not my jam. Like, I don't care finishing last. Like, I don't love it, and I don't like sitting there and everyone's like, hey, rooting you on, and you realize that you're the slowest person. But what I did realize is that outside of the gym, I think the majority of the people that go there have a 9-to-5 job. So where they're competitive and they're like in full beast mode in their career, or I'm sorry, in their in the gym, outside of that, they probably are working like a 9-to-5 job or aren't doing the same thing that I'm doing, where I'm the complete opposite, where I've been working for myself or doing my own thing for 16 years. And it's not like I'm better than anybody or like put myself above anyone. But there's a small part of me the other day when I was thinking about it, like, you know what? These motherfuckers are going so hard in the gym. So for 45 minutes or 40 minutes, they're going full on fucking ham. But when we leave this fucking place, or before I even get here, I'm going full fucking ham in my career, where I'm just doing my own shit. And it was like kind of not like I'm better than you, but it was I'm okay being the slowest person in here. And I don't think that anyone looks at me and they judge me, or they think that I'm like this slow piece of shit like I used to think when I was in high school, where I would finish last in high school. And I definitely felt that people thought I was a worthless piece of shit. But outside of high school, I mean, like, there was really no comparison on like who's better than anyone else in life. But there's this defense mechanism that kicks in where I'm like, you know what? If any of these fuckers think that they are better than me, let's compare a little over a half hour a day or 4 days a week or 5 days a week to the rest of the time where I'm showing up and just doing my own shit. And I don't really know where I was going with this, but like it just kind of like made me think of when I draw like my character in these situations, these things that I can't do, but then there's these things that I am doing, which I think I'm pretty proud of myself for doing, which I think technically people kind of look down on someone who thinks like, oh, really? Like you're thinking you're that kind of awesome? Like Kanye. Like Kanye West is really fucking good at what he does, and he's like, yeah, I'm the best. People shun him for that because they're like, you're not supposed to do that. And he's like, I don't give a fuck what you think. I'm a fucking gazillionaire, and I'm really good, and I can back it up. Plus, he's also kind of fucking nuts, which is a whole other story. But no one really roots for themselves. And so there's these small things where I look at what I do and go like, you know what, I'm kind of rooting for myself there. And this ties back into a couple things which I was like talking about earlier, where it was like this list of things I want to talk about, is this Do What You Want song by Bad Religion. Hold on, I'm going to take another sip of my Truly. So this song is from their third album, technically. Suffer. And it's incredible. The song is like a minute. I don't know. It could be like 2 minutes long, but it's so fast. And it's so funny because this song is so fucking old. And the people that I respect, and I have this other podcast about punk rock music. It's called This Was the Scene. I've talked about it many times. It talks about the late 90s punk rock scene. That scene is a place where this song and this band had done all of their mileage to the point of where they wrote this song, which I think was a little less than a decade prior to the time I'm talking to in that podcast. And so you have maybe 7-8 years leading up to the time period that I'm talking about where that was significant to me. This song was one of the many songs that led to creating that scene. So me now, as a 41-year-old dude, yeah, I'm in my 40s, if anyone didn't know that, I bought the audiobook Do What You Want by Bad Religion. I listened to it. And the best thing about these books is that they give you the story behind like the album and where they were at in their minds and how they created it. So it just adds all of this weight to the music that they created. And then there's this other podcast I listen to where this dude, he's talking about albums that influenced him, and he talks about Suffer, and then he talks about this song. So then I just randomly went back and I was like, I do remember this song. I remember my like buddy Chris playing it all the time. But it was not like so much all the time that it was just on constant rotate. But it would just pop up here and there. So I knew parts of the song. So I went back and listened to it and I was like, holy shit, this song, it's like, it's so weird to be so many decades away from when it was created, but it means so much to the things that I do. Because the whole thing is like, just my interpretation of it is, again, it's just to go from the title of Do What You Want. From the point I graduated high school, I didn't hate high school, like the friends that I met or the experiences that I had, but I hated being stuck in a building and having to learn this shit that I didn't care about, and it was forced on me. Not forced on me, but it was part of the curriculum that I just like was put into. And I didn't care about the science classes. Not saying that I dismiss science, obviously that's a hot topic these days. I just didn't get it, and I didn't care to get it, and I didn't want to put my time into getting it. And I couldn't wait to get out of high school because I was like, I know there's this freedom that I want to have, and I know I'm going to get it the moment that I leave these doors. And I remember the day that I graduated. I remember like walking up to the table after graduation and taking off my gown and my hat and just slapping it on this table, looking around the gymnasium, saying goodbye to people, getting in my 86 Volvo stick shift, which is such a sweet car, and drove off and I was like, I never have to go back there again. That feeling sticks with me, and it goes into the Do What You Want. It's there's like this ties into that song. This ties into the whole high school ending. This ties into this CrossFit thing that I feel. It's like I've lived up to those standards to this day, and I'm pretty stoked on that. And it's not easy, and it's definitely hard. But the fact that I've done it it makes me pretty proud of myself, which goes back to the Kanye West thing of, where's your ego step in and you think it's not okay to do that. But I think it's totally okay to think that and to praise myself for doing that. And on top of that, to hear this song where you can go back and listen to songs from your past and think, oh man, I remember being a teenager and hearing that song and hearing these lyrics and thinking I'm going to follow this path. And I would say that a giant percentage of people that I know, I would even argue that it was like 90% of the people that I know, they were going to do that, and then I see them on Facebook and and I know them and they're doing the family life thing and then the 9 to 5 thing. Do I think they're miserable? No. Do I think that I would be miserable doing that without knowing what it's like to have a family and knowing what it's like to have no, I know what it's like to have a 9 to 5 job. So the 9 to 5 job thing I could speak to. Yeah, I'd be fucking miserable. I do not want to work for anybody ever again. Like, I hope between now and the time that I die, which I hope would be in my 90s, that I will sit there on my deathbed, if I'm lucky to get there, where I'm coherent enough to say, I fucking did it my own way. And I'm going to keep fighting for that, it's a weird thing to do when you're in your 40s, because everyone's like, hey man, just succumb to what you are and follow the rest of the herd and stop fighting so hard. To me, that just shows that like I didn't give up and that they gave up. So when someone tells me that crap, I'm like, you know what? Get fucked. Because you're not strong enough to, I'll keep throwing this out there, do what you want, to follow the path that you thought you wanted to follow. Actually, it's a path that you still want to follow, but you have no fucking balls to go do it. And enjoy that life where you're watching videos on YouTube or listening to music or watching Netflix and you're sitting the whole time where you got your life just swirling around you that you have no control over, and you're looking at it with kind of regret, and you're laser focused on this song or show that's making you remember of that promise you made to yourself that you have now forgot about and have let go on. And I'm the asshole who's sitting here going, yeah, you know what, man? When I'm listening to that song or watching that show, and I sit there and go, remember I made that promise to myself? And then I look away from my TV and I look at my life and I go, yeah, wow, I kept that promise. I kept that promise to myself. And I'm pretty stoked on that. So I think that's why when I'm listening to this song, the lyrics, as old as when they were created, they're so fucking awesome. If you have a chance to go listen to the song, I suggest you do it. And I hope that it resonates with you, because I will put this on. The song will end and I'll just hit rewind to go back to the beginning of the song and play it again. I haven't done that shit with a song in years. I don't even know. And it makes me feel like I'm fucking 19 again when I would do that. And it's so fucking cool to know that still exists. And if you pay attention and you're looking for it, it'll show up. And it's the coolest shit ever. So that's like one of the things I want to talk about. Now this is where it takes a bit of a turn. I'm going to take another sip of this delicious Truly, which is really good. So another fun thing that happened last week is that I found out that my ex-father-in-law passed away, which made me very sad. And he was a great guy. And I think this ties into like what I'm talking about. It made me sad because I had got someone to reach out to me and said, "Hey, the name of your ex-father-in-law, he's not doing really well and he's in hospice." And I was like, "Fuck, man, that's like really sad." And if anyone's been following this podcast or like the whatever quote unquote journey that I've done with this comic, the second book I put out was about my divorce, and it was crushing because I loved the marriage that I was in until it ended, and then it's so weird to really love someone so much and then make them public enemy number one. That's a crazy thing, and I think it's a complete defense mechanism mixed with ego, mixed with just pure hurt. And the sad part was that I really loved her family, and I still think they're great people. I never was disgusted by them. The thing that the thing that would, as I'm like stuttering right now, the thing that like I don't think that I thought about literally until this very second is when things went down, I had communication with him. And I remember reaching out to him, and we would text each other very sporadically. And then I found out that my ex, like, she went to be with the guy that she left me for. And I remember like texting him like, "Hey man, I think it was something like, it's amazing to me that you guys are accepting of this shit where I don't know what I said." And he wrote back like something, what did he say? It was like, "We'll get past this, or we'll be friends again one day, my friend," or something. And I wrote back like, "You know what, man? Fuck that. Don't ever reach out to me again. Don't ever contact me again." And that was in 2014. God, it's a good day when you don't remember the year that you got divorced. Yeah, it was 2014. And that was it, and like that was the end of communication. I remember hearing that he was pretty pissed about that or bummed out about that. And then there was some other point where I think he had some health issues, and I reached out and said something, and he was just kind of like, "Hey," I think he wrote back, "Thanks." And that bond that we had was done, which is sad because we would meet up at this. He was a veteran, and he was part of this Friendly Sons of St. Patrick in Morristown. He was a part of that, and he got me involved in it, and I loved it. And it was like one of the flag dudes who, when the parade ended, like we would rock the wool sweaters and the berets and shit and roll down the streets of Morristown. And I was like carrying the flag, and he was a marshal, so he'd be at the end and like golf cart down or walk or something, which wasn't really great for his health. And fuck, where was I going with that? So he was part of that, and then there was this Legion Hall that he went to, and so I would meet up with him like once a month, and we'd get beers on a Friday, and we'd sit there for like 2 hours, then drink beers and just talk, and it was one of my favorite things. And it's sad to me that I was building this bond where I've ever wanted up until I got divorced, and like now I'm kind of working through if I want that again, was that I wanted to have a close relationship with somebody who was like my partner in crime. And I had that. And then at the same time, I had this family who just loved me and accepted me. And they just brought me in with open arms, and it was so great. And then I saw the opportunity with him, like I can bond with this guy and we can have this great relationship. And we did, and I just made an effort, not out of pity or anything that was not, what's the word? Like honest. And I was like, I truly want to know this guy. I was like, he's my father-in-law. He's like my second dad now. And I loved it. And I was so excited to see him, and we always left and like would hug, and it was the best thing. And I was so crushed when I got divorced because I knew I was going to lose that. And then when her family, which is makes total sense, didn't take my side, which makes total sense, I reacted, and then we didn't have a relation, we didn't talk after that. And then to know that that was 2014, so was that fucking 7 years later, he passes away. Like, legit, was it 7 years? No, it was like 2014, 16. Wow, yeah, like 7 years almost to the day that his daughter leaves me, like he passes away, like a couple days prior. I think he died on the day that Biden got inaugurated. And the one thing that popped in my brain when that happened was I was like really sad, and I feel really sad about the whole situation. But the guy wasn't like really healthy, and it was almost like even back then when I knew him, I thought we were like just 2 years away from having that happen. And I realize this is a very long podcast episode, but again, had a few, and I was just gonna go with it. I remember that the moment that I heard he was not doing well, and then I started thinking of what would be the shittiest thing I could say to my ex-wife. And then when I found out that he passed away, I just remembered that 3 months before my ex left me, my dad had died. And she was there with me, with my sisters and my stepmom, and we all got to say our goodbyes. And like, my dad was one of the best fucking people ever, and she was one of the people that got a minute with him when we all were in the ICU and he had passed, and the fucking machine went flatlined, where like we unplugged him, and it flatlined, and we all got to have like a couple minutes to say our goodbyes, and she got her turn to say it. And 3 months later, she left me. And I remember thinking that when her dad died, if she ever had reached out to me and said like, hey, I just want to let you know, my first thought was like, and I'm thinking about the guy that she left me for. And I was like, my first reaction was like, oh, maybe this means that in 3 months that blah, blah, blah is probably going to leave you. And I remember thinking how so badly I wanted to say that to her. And even in saying that right now in this podcast, it's not directly to her, and it doesn't exist where I said it to her in that moment. But even saying this captures that, which to me is fine. Would I still say it? No, but a part of me wants to have. Because as much as you get over something, it's like, I'm not happy that he passed away. And that part makes me sad. The fact that her family is sad makes me sad. The fact that she's sad, I don't give a flying fuck that she's sad. That's just being honest. So for me to have said that, would I? No. But the fact that I just said it right now is almost like I said it. So the fact that it's over here in my space where I'm saying it, I'm okay with that. Because I, to this day, hope that she feels that giant pain one day. And the fact that she's sad right now, is she? I don't know. If she is, then yeah, I'm actually kind of happy about that, because of the crap that she did years later after like we were cool with each other. For you to feel sadness, that's okay to me. But the fact that other people in your family are feel sadness, and the fact that the cause of it is really sad, that sucks. But yeah, the fact that you feel it, cool. I'm down with that. I'm totally fucking okay with that. Oh yeah, actually, let's talk about other things. So another thing that's come up recently is I'd liked someone this summer. This is like a really bad transition because I don't, I'm not trying to connect this thinking about like my ex being in pain to someone I liked. Um, I don't want that. Well, I'm just kind of going down the line. So there was I think like 10 episodes ago, I talked about how I was like feeling like I was swooning for somebody. It didn't work out. It bumps me out. And we kind of had like a end conversation. No, like not end conversation, like we don't talk anymore, but like I kind of like the full scope of like why it didn't work out, and it like, was like, all right, it just sucks. So it just kind of bums me out that it's just like twofold. Like one, it bums me out that I finally had let myself be open to liking somebody, and they it didn't work out for them because they weren't in the same place that I was, and they're still not at the same place that I was, which is sad and it sucks. And there's a part of me that I get it, and there's another part of me that has a different opinion about that. But then there's the third part of it, which doesn't really make sense, is I'm happy that I'm open to wanting to like someone again, which is cool. But it doesn't mean that it's gonna just like show up at my front door tomorrow, and doesn't mean that I'm forcing it to happen where that happens, where it's like, okay, cool, well, I like this person, but that didn't work out, but I like the feeling of liking somebody, so now I'm open to having someone else walk in. For me, it doesn't all mesh together like that. Like I wanted that to be the person. I wanted that person to be the person that I focused on. I don't want to say my person because that's a strong statement, and there was time to start really knowing someone a lot more to grow to be that thing, which was cool, and I was open to that. It sucks that I had opened myself up to liking that, and they're not a bad person. They're a great person, and they just have their own shit. And I don't think they're wrong in thinking that. It sucks that what I opened myself up to finally didn't work out, which isn't their fucking problem. The cool thing is that now I don't feel as sad as I did back in October, November, where I was pretty bummed out. So the good thing is that I can get over shit pretty fast. And it's like this mix of I respect it and I'm going to go my own way. And the other thing is like, there's a small part where you want to be like, well, fuck you and fuck that bullshit. But you catch that real quick and you're like, yeah, it's a defense mechanism. Like, you don't really feel that. Like, you don't see that person as being a bad person. But it did open a door to me being like, okay, well, now I can let the real person in, maybe, that I wanted to be with. So that's cool. So maybe that's going to happen. And who knows, like maybe within the next 5-10 years, that whole thing will go down. But I don't know if, going back to the core of what this whole conversation is about, like maybe that's not my jam, and which I constantly struggle with. And if anyone's been listening to this podcast for a long time, they're going to know that that's a constant theme. So that's that, and I think I'm just going to end this. Go check out my new book, which I've talked about many times. It's the couple's checklist, talking about relationships because it sounds like I'm so good at them. But this book is solid, and I'm very proud of it. And I also have these cards that I have for Valentine's Day, very limited, that just set my character as a Cupid character, and it says, let's go to Slamtown. And apparently Facebook doesn't like to keep this on, doesn't want me to host this on their store, which is just fucking ridiculous, because there's like with the fucking poopery thing. Like I can get blasted with ads about that, but if I say like an ad about a character says let's go to Slamtown, Facebook's like, oh, we can't fucking say that because that's against our policy. It's like, dude, all right, cool, cool platform that I get to be on for free, even though I spend ad dollars on it. So get fucked. Yeah. So all right, buy the book, buy the card, subscribe to my Instagram, pass this podcast along to anybody, and just keep following. All right, go do cool things.